Hello, my name is Alex Burmaster. I'm the European Internet Analyst at Nielsen Netratings. My job is essentially to analyse the data that comes out of the research suite of products that we have and to translate and tell people about trends within the internet, what's happening online and so on, to the industry, to our clients and to the press as well. My expectations for 2007 are twofold. Firstly, I believe that we will see a much greater success from the high street retailers in terms of targeting the internet. Over the last couple of years, we've sort of seen mixed success in terms of the high street brands translating their success to online. They've been a bit unsure of how to actually tackle this effectively, but when we look at what's happened with brands such as Tesco and Argos, who have really sort of led the way in terms of translating their offering and their brand to the online medium, I predict that over the next year or so we will see brands doing this to a much greater degree of effectiveness. Number two, very exciting for everyone in the online industry, is how brands and advertisers are going to be targeting the phenomenon of Web 2.0. Basically, we've seen a number of brands looking at trying to utilise what we call user-generated content to try and promote their brand, generate empathy and a dialogue with consumers. Very much this has been to a mixed degree. We look at brands such as Chevrolet, who asked people in the US to design their own adverts, and what we saw from that was a whole slew of online videos talking about Chevrolet contributing to global warming, social injustice and so on. Yet on the flip side of that coin, we look at brands like Bazooka Bubblegum. If you go to YouTube and do a search for Bazooka Bubblegum, you will see hundreds and hundreds of amusing homegrown videos where people are reacting the famous Bazooka Bubblegum dance and song. So we're going to see over the next year a lot of brands being much more creative in the way that they tackle user-generated content, and hopefully with a lot greater degree of success. The main issue that I face for 2007 is one pretty much across the entire analytics and online measurement industry. It's that idea of a common currency and the fact that through different sources of analytics and measurement we see different data. And obviously for whether it's advertisers, clients, brands, agencies, whoever it is, that degree of difference between the different sets of data sources creates uncertainty and confusion. So what I'm hoping that we will see over the next year is the ability for everyone within the online industry, particularly online measurement, to explain and help clients, advertisers, anyone looking to take advantage of the online space to understand why those differences exist between the different sources of data to try and remove that uncertainty. So I think the online industry has been somewhat complacent in tackling and allaying consumers' fears about online security. I think what's happened with online revenues increasing through shopping and more people shopping online, that the companies have been somewhat complacent about actually targeting this area, thinking, well, people are shopping online in greater numbers, therefore we don't have to focus so much on the security issues. But that really isn't the way to go. People are still very concerned about shopping online, and the fact is, if they do target these concerns, they're going to see a lot more people shopping online and purchasing in much greater numbers. In terms of who wins in the online battle, whether it's companies that have been created online or companies that have a high street offline presence and then translate that brand to online, it's very difficult to answer that in a nutshell. When you look at the top 10, 20 web properties online, yes, the vast majority of them are the pure online players, Google, Yahoo, MSN, MySpace and so on. The online players obviously have one key advantage, and that's the perception in the mind of the consumer of expertise. These people don't have an offline presence. All of their expertise and everything that they do is targeted to the online sphere. So there is a perception amongst consumers that they know more about the online sphere than their offline counterparts. Contrasting that, the offline brands, the high street brands, have that issue of credibility. For people who aren't so confident about the online space, who maybe are not as internet savvy as the rest of the online population, the offline retailers and brands have a huge advantage in terms of being able to translate the credibility that they have in terms of that physical presence that they have offline. And if they can translate that online, then they potentially have a huge advantage over their online counterparts. If you look at brands such as Tesco is a classic example of a brand who has translated the power that they have offline, that brand presence, the way that they sell their products, delivery and so on, they've translated that incredibly well to the online sphere, and Tesco has a very, very high rating amongst online consumers in terms of confidence and the ability to deliver. In terms of how search is developing across Europe, the UK and the US, obviously they're all very different markets, but we've seen one consistent finding really across all. Search is really the lifeblood of the internet, if you like. It's the river that flows through the entire internet jungle from which people use this to navigate their way around. And on one level, we see new people coming to the internet who very much rely on search as their way of navigation and finding what it is they need online. They're not so much using it as just a search tool, it's an actual navigation tool. So their reliance on search is much, much greater. The flip side to that coin is people who have been online for a number of years who are more internet savvy. And we've seen in certain areas an actual diminishing in the effectiveness or the use of search among this group. Yes, they still use search, but they're more confident with the online space, they know the online space, they know that the brands that they use, so search becomes less of a factor. So it's very much important for the industry to understand, or rather brands within the industry, to understand who they're really targeting, who their customer base is. Is it people who are new to the internet, therefore relying much more on search, or is it people who have been using the internet for a number of years and so rely slightly less on search to navigate their way around the internet? Should we be using web analytics? Absolutely, we should be using that. To try and understand and really take advantage of the online marketplace, the online ecosystem, if you will, you really have to understand how that ecosystem behaves in terms of the people inhabiting the internet and the way that they navigate throughout the entire internet experience. It's very difficult for a brand to try and target the online space without fully understanding how this space operates. And it's a very, very delicate ecosystem. What works in one area certainly doesn't work in another area. So it's very, very important to really essentially maximize the online space and the effectiveness and the effectiveness of your targeting. You really need to understand in quite some detail how everything works, how it's all interlinked and so on. And really that is impossible without web analytics. In terms of the search ecosystem and how consumers use the search market, one of the key findings that we found is, obviously everybody knows that Google is by far the dominant search engine. It currently accounts for around 68-69% of all click-throughs, say from the UK market, and those figures are similar around the world. But what we found is there isn't what we call exclusive brand loyalty across search. Yes, everybody is using Google, but the chances are they're using at least one other search engine, or often two or three. And it's very important for brands and advertisers, anyone targeting the search space, to understand that yes, people are using Google, but they certainly tend to be using one, two or three search engines. This obviously differs in terms of other sectors, say for example shopping, where people are probably only going to use Tesco, or if they're selling items using auctions, they're probably only going to use eBay. But in the search, we see them using Google, Yahoo Search, MSN Search and Ask. And it's very important for people using search to understand this fact that exclusive brand loyalty for search doesn't exist. I'd like to thank the Interactive Advertising Bureau and Web Optimizer for this opportunity to tell you a bit about where we're coming from as a company, Net Ratings, in terms of the online sphere. To sort of summarise really what we can offer, the online system is a very delicate ecosystem. It's very complex. There are a lot of issues. It's a vast system now. Around sort of 50-60% of the UK population are using the online sphere. And really to understand exactly how this behaves within the different areas and what's relevant for your brand and what isn't, you really do need to understand it in great detail using web analytics and so on. To try and understand and take advantage of the online ecosystem is very difficult without this granular understanding. And Net Ratings have a wide range of products that can help you to understand clickstream behavior, consumer attitudes and perceptions online, and to try and sort of merge these two areas to fully understand how consumers behave, how they interact, their thoughts about the online sphere, to really enable you to fully target and take advantage of what the online space has to offer for your brand or for your company or for your services. Thank you very much.